Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Listen!
Welcome, foolish mortals, towards
Magic mirror on the wall. All the forces of evil I call.
I am so excited. You know why, Sarah?
Why?
This is our Halloween episode of
Skywalking through Neverland. This is Sarah, otherwise known as @JediTink.
And this is Richard.
We're going to be talking to people all over the country about their specific Halloween memories and traditions.
And rituals and movies they have to watch and trick-or-treating and everything.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun.
So, Sarah, who do we have on this week's episode of Wookiees, Capes, Wings, and Wands?
We have Robert Bapst of the Bald Solo podcast and his friend Seth Talley. They're coming to us from Georgia. And then we also have Robyn Boyd, and she is a cosplayer here in Southern California.
Isn't she the queen of Halloween?
Well, we'll get into that in our segment.
Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is fan films. Now, a couple of episodes ago, Sarah and I were talking about our Star Wars fan film called TPZ, but that's not the first fan film I've ever made.
No, you've made lots more. You've made like 5 more?
The first one I ever made is a horror parody called Day Jobs. Now, this is a film where we get to see what horror villains do during the day before they go out killing at night. Well, they gotta get day jobs.
I think that's an awesome idea.
So we see what Scream does. Scream's a telemarketer. Jason is a camp counselor, oddly enough. Freddy Krueger sells hot dogs on the side of the road. Chucky sells lemonade. And that's where the fun begins. So this is an idea I had when I was doing a sketch comedy show, and this was meant to be a 5-minute sketch within the whole show. So Scream calls up this one girl who just refuses to come to the timeshare seminar, so he goes out looking for her.
Uh-oh.
He goes out hunting her down, and along the way, he sees Jason from Friday the 13th.
Freddy Krueger?
Freddy Krueger. He sees Michael Myers. He sees Chucky.
Oh, Chucky, yeah.
He sees lots of other fun characters. And I had a lot of fun making this film because I had such a deep passion for horror movies. And I've always wondered what these characters do during the day before they go out killing babysitters and teenagers at night. Well, they gotta get day jobs. They're gonna need a little cash to fund their nighttime hobby. And
just like Dexter.
Just like Dexter. When people came to see the show, they would say, out of all the sketches, this is the one that was their favorite. So the wheels got spinning, and I realized, wait a minute, this would be a lot of fun to shoot. So got together a great cast, a great crew, and we went out and shot. And I've got to hand it to my friend Mark Oguschewitz, who was my editor and co-producer on TPZ. He and I got together, and we hashed out a bunch of ideas, and there was one big element in the whole film I was missing, and I don't know how I missed it, but he brought it to my attention, and I brought him on as a co-writer, co-producer, and the editor. In fact, you know what? Let's give Mark a call, and we'll have him describe it. So, Mark Oguschewitz, are you there?
I'm here.
So, we just told everyone how Day Jobs went from a stage show and how I wanted to make a short film out of it, and we did a reading of it, and afterwards, you came over to me and said, you're the character at the very end, her name is Carrie, but I was expecting her to be Carrie from the movie Carrie, and I just named this character Carrie because of Carrie Fisher, because in my screenplays, in my scripts, all girls are named Carrie, then later on Natalie.
If I remember right, the ending of the original script was very, very different, and when we finished reading it, it was like the only thing in the script that I didn't like. It didn't seem to come to any real conclusion. Whenever Carrie came up, I was expecting her to appear at the end, and I think I had said to you, wouldn't it be really cool if when Scream entered the house, he just ran into this Carrie, all bloody, just home from the prom. And you immediately kind of got excited about it.
I couldn't believe I missed that. It never even dawned on me.
And if people watch the movie, they'll notice that there's split screens in the ending as well, which we stole directly from the Brian De Palma movie, because we had thought that, hey, if we're going to do it and we're going to do an homage to Carrie, we should we should do what he did. And so as things start flying around, we have these split screens to kind of show respect to what De Palma did in that film.
Well, I know we paid homage to whatever character was in the film, like Jason and Freddy and Scream and Chucky. We try to make we made those segments as if they were shot by those directors. So each character had its own style.
Especially when we were filming stuff like the Chucky scene, which was probably my favorite day on the whole entire shoot because it was just kind of bizarre. Because I believe we were parked right across the street from the Elm Street house, and you didn't have any permission from anybody. So as people were walking up and down the street, watching us, puppeteer this puppet, giving us very strange looks as we did take after take after take, especially with the tossing of the knife.
Well, being in Southern California, we had access to all the locations they used in all the horror movies, so it only made sense that we shoot this at those horror locations. Like in the very end, Scream walks into the house where he finally locates Carrie, and that location is the Nightmare on Elm Street house that they used in the very first 1984 movie.
Right, and that was actually the toughest part of the editing. Was we went online looking for stock footage of fire, and we had to find that in a way that we could also just because we weren't we were kind of on a very low budget and we were doing everything ourselves and figuring everything out ourselves. So figuring out how to put that fire in and where are we going to go get fire that we could insert in here properly. And
that's true, and I recall us doing about 2 or 3 takes. Because that's all the nerve we had, since we didn't ask them if we could use their house. We had the actor who was Scream walk up to the front door a few times before we just took off. And so many people played Scream in day jobs. If you notice, every shot, Scream's a different height, and different weight, and different gender.
Well, that's another real interesting thing about the editing process, because this film took us forever, and I still think that it's not done because we would edit, and then we would be done, and then you would be like, something? I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to grab that Scream costume, and we're going to put in a shot of Scream walking through Las Vegas. Or I'm going to this location. We got to get a shot of Scream there. And every time that you leave to go anywhere outside of the state to this day, I'm scared you're going to come back and want to recut.
Well, I really wanted every location to be somewhere unique and different. One shot, he's in a subway. One shot, he's sledding down a snowy hill. One shot, he's in Hollywood. One shot, he's in New York City. So I really wanted to show how far he traveled, and in order to do that, we had to get as many different locations as possible. There's a calendar on the wall in the office scenes that says 2002, and I recall wanting to get this out before Attack of the Clones came out. And when we finished it, it was early 2006, because I put Sarah in a Scream costume.
Well, if I remember correctly, on any of the Hey Entertainment projects I've ever worked on, it never finishes when we walk, because even TPZ took a year longer than we expected. So
yeah, but that wasn't my fault.
No, but the day jobs was, because it's like, all right, we're locked, we're finished, everything's completed. What? You got another person in the Scream costume up in the mountain?
Yeah, there was just so many different locations to use. We used the house that Johnny Depp lived in Nightmare on Elm Street. We had to use that. We shot at the location where all the babysitters got killed in Halloween. We shot in front of the house that Jamie Lee Curtis babysat in the same Halloween movie.
The Halloween house isn't in the movie, though, because weren't they doing construction on it?
It's in the background. Ironically enough, during the Jason scene where we're all loading into the van, we see the Halloween house in the background.
Right, I remember that, but I thought that was the house from across the street, because the actual one that Jamie Lee Curtis was in was under construction.
No, it was the other house where all the babysitters got killed. That's the house that was being demolished the time when we were shooting this, and luckily enough, we shot it when we did, or we wouldn't have had that house. So it made a good bookend from Halloween to day jobs. That house will go down in cinematic horror history.
Right, but more for day jobs than anything else, I'm sure.
That's all that matters. All right, Mark. Well, thank you very much for skywalking through day jobs.
Anytime.
Well, thanks. I think Mark shed some light on that because this was all before I met you.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun making that, and I look forward to making more films like this. In fact, when I met Jamie Lee Curtis a couple of years ago, I told her about this idea, and she laughed. It made me feel so good that Jamie Lee Curtis laughed at an idea of a film I had that she indirectly had something to do with. You know what? I still owe her a DVD of this. Coming up next,
We're going to talk with a few of our friends that we've made over the past couple weeks about all our Halloween experiences. So enjoy.
Trick-or-treaters! I will take care of them myself! Time to abandon your treats!
Boom.
all right, we are here talking Halloween with our special guest, Robert Bapst of the Bald Solo podcast, with his friend, Seth Talley.
Hey,
And
how's it going?
I got to give a shout out to your Dalrak the Mighty comic. How's that going?
Oh, it's going well right now. We're deep into doing issue 2. Should be having a bit more of that actually up on the site here soon. And we'll be at a couple of conventions, and hopefully everything goes well with it.
It's a fantastic comic book.
And we are also here talking to the Queen of Halloween, Robyn Boyd.
Hi.
We've been following you on Facebook, and
Seen some of your incredible costumes.
girl,
that
you are
make.
busy.
Yes, I am. I'm actually sewing as I'm sitting here talking to you guys.
Oh, wow. She's
Oh,
sewing.
she's multitasking. I like her.
What costume are you sewing?
I am finishing a new Sally costume. I have a thing I have to go to tomorrow, and I'm a perfectionist, and I wasn't happy with the first 2 versions, so I decided to do it again. So I'm trying to finish that up really quick before tomorrow.
And how about you there, Bald? You know what? I'm just going to call you Bald Solo, okay?
I'm
so when you-
totally fine with that. I love it. Yeah.
So for you listeners, when I talk to Bald Solo, that's Robert. What are you guys dressing up for Halloween?
Well, I'll probably do my usual of... I'm the guy that tries to scare the children when they come up to grab the candy. One year I've actually put the bowl out that says take one on a table with a tablecloth. I hid underneath and there was a hole cut out in the bowl. So when they would come up and take out the candy, I would reach up and grab a hand.
Oh, man.
It got some good treats. It's a lot of fun.
I know certain neighborhoods have areas mapped out for child predators.
I for a second, I thought
not
you were
saying that
talking
you're
about
that
like
kind of child predator, but you're the child predator.
No, I
another
thought you were
kind.
talking about like the Predator from the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger for a second. Like,
No, this is worse. This is the
Yeah.
guy who scares the bejesus out of kids on Halloween night. All they want is
Oh,
candy.
man.
All they want is a Snickers or a Starburst.
right.
And all I want is a good laugh. We both go away happy.
Hey, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this year I'm excited to go out as Thor. We made a Thor
sick.
costume. We wore it to Disneyland, and
And I was Mary Poppins.
and
I
then-
was Thor's date.
And
Exactly.
I think it's adorable.
now, Robyn, as a kid, what was your gateway costume?
I remember my mom used to make costumes for my brother and I, and it was never anything that I wanted or asked for. But I remember one year she made me a black cat, and I was like, okay, that's cool. I can rock a black cat. And that kind of, from there I kind of went, witchy, vampire-y, that kind of route for a long time.
You went to like the dark characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never was the kind of kid to go, I want to be a princess. I don't think I ever wanted to be a princess. But once she made me the black cat, I was pretty happy.
That's awesome. I was kind of similar in that I didn't really want to be a princess. I only have one Halloween where I was a princess. Otherwise, I was either a tiger or a bunny rabbit or my favorite costume, which was Mary Poppins Jolly Holiday. My mom actually converted my communion dress, which was all white, and she
Oh,
put
nice.
the red band, around the middle, and we made the hats, and it was perfect. I was the happiest little girl.
That's awesome.
Bald Solo?
Well, my the most vivid Halloween costume memory I have was He-Man. And yeah.
Oh my God!
I
we need
actually
pictures.
okay, so when
And you too had the
when-
physique like I did for Thor, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
But before, before tonight, I called my dad because I wanted to get an objective, objective memory, not my rose-colored
No, son,
glasses.
you really
as a
weren't that
kid.
buff.
And so I said, Dad, what was my? Because I remember dressing as Batman and Superman. He said, you loved your He-Man costume because I had. Oh yeah, I had, and it all came back like boom. I had a plastic. It was the Sword of Eternia, right?
Yeah,
that was the name of it. Yeah, I used to try to get away with wearing it to school, and I'd always get busted.
Oh.
So yeah, I was totally, and it all came back to me. It was like, wow, it's just something that I did not maintain into adulthood was my obsession with He-Man. And I had the figures and everything. I was like, oh yeah, I was like way obsessed with He-Man. So yes, I dressed as He-Man, but I remember that it was very cold and it started to rain.
So
and
when you say busted, you mean when you walked into school, they said, you know, Bald Solo, you can't be wearing a loincloth and a couple of straps like that.
You can't. No,
Get rid
it
of
was
the tiger.
me in my school clothes, and then I would holster the Sword of Eternia in between my back and my backpack.
Oh, you tried to smuggle it in.
Yeah,
Even
tried to
back
smuggle
then,
it in.
You were a smuggler.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and so that was my costume of choice was He-Man.
Seth?
Actually, mine was Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Oh,
when
How
I was a
young are you
kid,
guys?
I didn't really realize it was a comic book, honestly, but I went through, and I just thought the movie was hilarious, so I wanted to do that. And I can remember distinctly wearing the mask, the hat, the zoot suit, and everything, and going to a costume contest and winning the scariest character category. And I was like 7 at the time, so I was just devastated. I'm like, why does everyone think I'm scary? I'm supposed to be funny. But then I won the Bobbing for Apples contest, so it balanced out.
Did you win the Bobbing for Apples contest in the mask?
No, it wasn't in the mask. I had to take the mask off. It had one of those
talented.
mouthpieces.
Was it a store-bought costume, or did you make it?
My mother helped make it. The zoot suit was actually made. The mask itself was store-bought.
Yeah. For me, it was Batman. When I was 6, up until the age of 6, I don't recall what I was, but I remember being 6 years old and seeing this Batman costume and realizing, once I put this on, it's never coming off.
Aw. I think I was like that with my Superman pajamas when I was 4.
Oh, yeah.
The year after I was Batman, I was Hawkman.
Oh,
Ooh.
nice.
From DC Comics, but
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Carter
You
Hall.
would know.
yeah. Before you go on saying nice, I made my wings out of paper, and I just could not understand why my paper wings did not look like these big feathery wings that Hawkman had in the cartoon and comics. I could not wrap my head
his
around
wings
this.
were on paper.
Why
That
are
makes
they
sense.
not flapping?
Right. Why are they not majestic?
The year before, when I was Batman, this was back in the early 70s when the costumes looked a lot like what you saw in the comics and the TV show. The Batman costume had the bat symbol on the chest. It had the belt. The belt was screen printed
Of
onto the
course.
costume. And I always loved Batman's utility belt. He keeps everything in there. I think once he pulled out a Bengal tiger. He had everything in this belt, and I never understood why this screen printed belt, never had pockets. So I would put things down the collar of the costume. Of course, they'd fall out the bottom of the pants.
Did you think the
I would
belt
think,
would
yeah,
hold it?
I would think. being that young, I thought I could put things in my costume, and they would just magically be held in the belt that I never had.
Aw.
I went to public school.
Oh, that's great.
So my favorite costume growing up was the Darth Vader costume, which I have stored in my Star Wars room we have in our house.
You
That's one
still
of-
have that?
I still have it. And it's in pretty good condition, too. I love this costume so much. In fact, for my birthday last year, Sarah bought me a T-shirt with that Darth Vader that came on the costume. Now they put it on a T-shirt.
I remember the white elastic thin, like, they're so thin and flimsy that went
Yeah.
around the back of your head, and it was just a face plate. That's
Yeah.
all it was, a face plate. And when that thing snapped, it hurt so bad. It was the worst. I had a Dracula costume like that. And I remember because I stepped on the cape going to someone's house and fell. Like it was such a slapstick vaudeville moment. Like I stepped on the cape and it was a full banana peel wipeout. And the strap on my I had a Dracula mask on. I didn't have makeup on.
So really you were Bela
It was
Lugosi
yeah,
at
it was
this
a
moment.
complete farce. It was so bad because it wasn't even legit. I didn't even have the fangs and the makeup
Now,
on.
if
I
that
just
happened,
put on a mask.
If that happened today, you would have been captured by
I was
18
gonna say,
iPhones.
do you have video of that?
Yes.
Be on YouTube before your butt hit the ground.
So many wonderful moments weren't captured, and maybe it's a good thing because there weren't,
So, Robyn, did you ever get these store-bought costumes, or did you always make your own?
No, I don't think I've ever had a store-bought costume. Like I said, my mom used to make them, and then I started making my own things. I don't think I've ever had a store-bought costume.
Robyn's been legit since she was a kid.
Yeah.
Well, the first costume I did make was a Darth Vader because I didn't want to go back to the plastic flame retardant costume. The way I visualized myself was like, I look exactly like Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. I'm 6'7" and people are fearing me.
That's a good point. I totally had. You get into a character. You are walking up the sidewalk. I was as the guardian of Eternia to claim the spoils of war from that candy bucket. Like you're totally right. You feel like you are that character. That was one of my favorite parts of Halloween was, getting to pretend to be my heroes.
Now, Robyn, and you don't just make costumes, you make the props as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I've been extremely busy all week making tombstones. I decided I used to do really big haunts at my house, and I would have black sheeting and rope off my whole garage and driveway and make this maze and have lots of different costume people helping me.
Oh, that's cool.
But this year I'm kind of short-handed. Everybody got obligations, so it's kind of just me and my dog and Jonah, my son, when he gets out of school. So I decided to make a Burton's pet cemetery. So I was making tombstones for all the different Burton dogs, and we're going to have a lot of Tim Burton references for the kids to see this year.
And do you sculpt these and mold them and cast them?
Actually, I sculpted them and painted them.
Wow. What, are those foam?
Yes, it's foam insulation that you can get at Lowe's.
Wow.
But yeah, it's going to be pretty cool on Halloween night.
Today is the 23rd of October, and we're just now starting to put up our Halloween yard decorations.
We just took them out today. It's like, oh.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
We've just been so busy.
Just the fact that you guys are decorating, because that's becoming less and less of a commonplace thing. At least what I see out here.
Huh. You guys are in Georgia?
Georgia, yeah. As
I'm
much
from
as
Boston,
I used to.
And I didn't see really much of anything, whereas people would put decorations up. But when I moved out to L.A., and I saw Halloween lights everywhere and graveyards and front yards, I realized then
cool.
I am moving to Los Angeles. That was what really cemented it, because I was so happy that people out here celebrated my favorite holiday.
This is my favorite month, favorite holiday,
Oh, yeah.
favorite ever. I mean, October, Halloween, as far as I'm concerned, is October 1st through the 31st.
Here. Yeah, when we wake
Yeah.
up on October the 1st, it's like Christmas morning.
Kinda,
It's
yeah.
here,
Yes.
it's here, it's
Yeah.
here, it's here.
Halloween, let's go
Yep.
have some pumpkin drinks.
Yeah, because even though Starbucks starts selling their pumpkin lattes on the 3rd of August, I tell Sarah, no, we cannot have anything Halloween until the 1st of October.
I celebrated by watching The Reanimator, and it was glorious.
Yeah, is that one of your ritualistic movies?
Well, when I was a kid, the ritual was the Charlie Brown, the Great Pumpkin. So that was, and then my sister and I would watch a movie called The Worst Witch. It has Tim Curry in it. It's kind of like Harry Potter. There's a witch academy you go to.
Fun.
And all the witches are picking on this one little witch because she's different. And there's this amazing song that Tim Curry sings called "Anything Can Happen on Halloween." He's like, anything can happen on Halloween.
Okay,
A dog could turn into a cat.
He wasn't wearing fishnets, was he?
God, I wish he was. No, he was the grand or I don't think he was the Grand Wizard. He was
Grand Poobah.
Yeah, he was like the top dog wizard in the academy, and he had this stereotypical like Dracula cape with the big fanned up collar, and he was very Tim Curry. It's just you have to find it. It's probably only on VHS.
I was gonna say, if you can find that wave file, we'll play it.
Yeah.
So-
I'll bet you could torrent that movie. I didn't start really watching hardcore or really
You'll need to define that hardcore bit.
gory, like Hellraiser, like Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. I wasn't allowed to watch this stuff. I was raised Catholic. It wasn't allowed in the house.
Gotcha.
So
Well, I think for every kid, the ritualistic television shows were It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Right.
And if you missed that, don't even go to school the next day.
it was
got
so
nothing to talk about.
Just soothing to watch. It just was. I liked it more than The Grinch Stole Christmas, and I love The Grinch Stole Christmas, but I like The Pumpkin more. I didn't start watching horror until I got out of the house, like got into college. So then I really started discovering that. So now my ritual is I usually just watch horror movies all month. Like I did Reanimator, From Beyond, Hellraiser. Last year we did a marathon of all the Friday the 13th and all the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Including the remakes?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's funny because as it goes on, they get worse and worse and worse. So it starts becoming more like a comedy. Yeah.
Seth, how about you? Is there a movie every year you have to watch?
Well, Rocky Horror Picture Show, ironically enough. My parents showed it to us when we were about 6 to 7 years old, me and my two sisters, and we've actually gone to the whole midnight showings and everything together as a family. It's something we always do.
Yeah, so cool parents. You had such cool parents.
It's a little bit of a twisted family tradition, but it's fine until Dad comes out in the fishnets and corset. Then it's a little odd.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, but you know what? One Instagram of that, and he will never do it again. Never.
No, I think it might encourage him, actually. Our family isn't much to shy away from much of anything.
For Halloween, for me, it is actually the Michael Jackson Thriller album.
Oh, yeah.
Because on Halloween night every year, my dad is like this big audio guy. He loves sound, and we had these giant speakers in our living room growing up. So he would open all the windows and have Michael Jackson Thriller blasting out the windows, out the door to the neighborhood. So as the kids came up, they would hear the album, and it would just play on repeat the whole night. And what was awesome is when you'd be walking up and Vincent Price would be like cackling outside the windows.
Oh, that's great.
I just remember that. That was like awesome. It's not Halloween without Michael Jackson Thriller.
I'm a big fan of the show The Monkees. And they have one where the boys go to visit a haunted house. And every year I have got to watch that episode on Halloween. I've been late to jobs because I had to finish this episode of The Monkees.
And now I have to too.
I totally get being late to work because you have to get through a certain part of a movie or finish it.
Robyn, how about you?
I have two definite. I have a whole list, but two for sure I have to watch are the Disney animated Sleepy Hollow. The Adventures of Ichabod Crane.
Oh yeah.
I love that one. We still have it on VHS. And then Hitchcock. I have to watch Psycho. I have to watch it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And then if I want to keep in the Tim Curry theme, also we always throw Clue in there. So.
Oh, Clue
rules.
rules.
Forever.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, one movie I like to watch is Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl, the first one, the only one.
The only one.
The zombie
one.
pirate
I mean,
movie.
this year I had a stretch. I watched Plan 9 from Outer Space, and I counted it.
Yes.
It's technically sci-fi horror because you have the
We need to do a
they're
Google
like
hangout. We're all
vampire.
watching that.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. They're because of what they bring. They're undead vampires, right? Something like that. Yeah, that's Plan 9
Is
is
that
to
better
turn us
than-
all into undead vampires.
Is that better than Sharknado?
Oh man, Sharknado owes its
a good
existence to Plan 9.
But what about Sharktopus?
Are you serious? Is that a real movie?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
No, it's half shark, half octopus, all mayhem.
Oh man!
You know, somewhere in Halloween there's got to be a triple bill of Sharknado, Sharktopus, and Ghost Shark. There has got to be. I can see
it does need to be a triple feature.
Yeah.
Seen on the big screen.
I can see this pushing Rocky Horror out of theaters.
I kind of want to see like a West Side Story fight between Sharknado fans and Rocky Horror fans.
Like,
all
like they did the Drew
snapping.
Carey show a long
Yes.
time ago with Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, in Rocky Horror.
Oh man!
Has anyone carved their pumpkins yet?
We have a pumpkin on the front porch.
Oh, you do?
It's not carved.
Oh.
It's just a pumpkin.
Yeah, us too. We have 6 pumpkins, but yeah, we got to carve them.
Last year, I let ours just decompose, and this year we got a free pumpkin because apparently it grew a pumpkin plant out in our front
You
yard.
got a pumpkin patch? Oh
Yeah,
my goodness!
It only grew one because I live by the beach, and so that's why we can't really carve our pumpkins early because they go bad really quick. But the soil's not really great for pumpkin patches, but we got one pumpkin out of it, so that was really cool.
That's amazing.
Wow,
Yeah.
you're ahead of the game by $4.99.
Yeah.
In '83, I carved a pumpkin as Darth Vader, and I thought doesn't look too much like Darth Vader, so I spray painted it black.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
it lasted maybe the night.
Oh.
The next morning, it was just it wasn't a pretty sight.
The pumpkin didn't take
Last year I did a
No.
Rebel Alliance pumpkin.
Ooh.
The that was so hard to do.
Robyn, ever do a fan related pumpkin?
Oh, yeah. Every year we theme them kind of to whatever kind of hunt we have, whatever costumes we
What?
have, and we do those really intricate carvings as well.
What?
So, yeah, they're pretty cool. We make pretty cool pumpkins. Last year I did Edgar Allan Poe, and I put a raven on top of the pumpkin, and that was pretty cool.
You put
I've learned geometric shapes. That's what I do for carving pumpkins.
She's been making her own costumes since she was a kid. She has a pumpkin patch, and she does Edgar Allan Poe pumpkins. She is the queen of Halloween.
Oh, and she makes she made her house into a haunted house
yes.
with a maze. What I'm saying is, take it down a notch this year.
Oh.
Maybe the rest of the Yeah. She is the queen of Halloween.
Well, thank you.
Very nice. Now, anyone here ever go to a haunted house when they were, let's say, a kid, and they had something fandom related in the haunted house? So
I don't know that I ever had anything fan thing related happen at a haunted house, unless you count Mickey's Haunted Mansion at Disney World, which Kelly and I are big Disney fans, so we love going through that. And it always makes me feel nostalgic, like when I was watching stuff like The Great Pumpkin, when you're going through it, because it's, it's got all this... It takes you back to, of course it's very Disney, but it just takes you back to watching things like that. And it's the only place in the park where the cast members are told not to smile. They act very morose and very serious the entire time when you walk up, and some of them really get into it. It's really funny. And when you go through, it's like they use scrims and they use projection stuff, and there's a 3D stuff going on, and light things with lights. It's really cool, and it's immense. It's huge. You go through the whole mansion, so it's really neat.
Now, is trick-or-treating popular out there in Georgia?
A bit. I mean, we'll see a lot of kids come by every now and again, but it's not a huge to-do here, unfortunately.
I stand post and give out candy.
Oh, good
I
for
do
you.
it.
Yeah, when I was growing up, the streets were littered with children, wall-to-wall children.
Yep.
But then in 1982, there was a Tylenol scare where some
Someone
lunatic
popped open a Tylenol
would-
bottle, and I want to say 3 or 4 people ended up dying, right?
Yeah, because they would put like cyanide or something in these capsules.
What?
And
It was
then
before they actually had the regular capsules like we have today.
before they were like adult proof. At that point, people stopped trick or treating because they were afraid of what people could do with candy you would get from a stranger.
I remember my parents checking my candy.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to eat my candy, go through any of it until that was a ritual. When I was a kid, we came home and all the candy, my sister's bucket and my bucket, because we had the same plastic pumpkin buckets that we took. jack-o'-lantern buckets. And they went down on the table, and Mom and Dad went through everything.
My grandmother used to do that.
It's times like this that I really wonder how much my parents actually loved me, because I don't remember them ever checking my candy. I always remember just like, hey, just eat whatever you want on the way home. It'll be fine.
Because my dad told me about razor blades. They would put somebody had put razor blades in candy out.
Oh no, I always heard razor blade in an apple, which in my mind as a child, I'm like, who the hell gives out an apple during Halloween?
Yeah.
And why would someone put a razor blade in it? It's candy
like Tootsie
time.
Rolls, because you can unwrap a Tootsie Roll and then wrap it back up, and they would snap off a piece of a razor blade and shove it in the Tootsie Roll and then wrap it back up.
I suppose it's safe putting a razor blade in the apple because the kids are just going to throw them down the street anyway.
Apparently.
Right. What is this?
Yeah, there used to be a drunk lady in our neighborhood, and she used to always give out money.
Oh, hell, I would have gone back.
Yeah.
I would have had 3 different masks at that point.
Did you guys ever have people that would just leave a candy bucket and just be like the
Take
honor
one.
system?
take one bowl.
Yeah, they would do that, definitely.
Yeah.
A friend of mine worked on a movie with Mark Hamill and got his address.
What?
And gave it to me. I'm not going to give it out, but I went and visited this homestead, and I thought, this is the perfect crime. I'm going to go to the doorstep. My kid broke his leg, and I've got to go, baby. Hey, you're Luke Skywalker. I was going to try to pull one of those. Went to the front door, and there was a bucket that said, take one. It's like, oh, no. You know what? I'm going to ring the doorbell and pretend I didn't see the bucket. And I could hear people inside. I'm ringing the doorbell. I'm ringing it again. After about 30 minutes, I just left.
Yeah.
Because I realized,
oh man,
Luke ain't coming out. Yeah, but around here in LA, we get no trick-or-treaters anymore. However, in Pasadena, where they shot the movie Halloween, that neighborhood is like 1977. There are kids everywhere.
If there was one place I would not trick-or-treat, it would be that street. That movie gave me countless nightmares.
Yeah,
Why on earth would people go and trick-or-treat there?
I really love that they're keeping it alive.
Yeah,
that's great.
The ghost of the William
I bet you do,
Shatner mask.
See, the thing about Michael Myers, he stalked people during the daytime.
Which is what made that movie brilliant. Because he did it during the daytime.
He's standing there watching you come out of the grocery store, in the parking lot, in that jumpsuit and mask, just standing there. Because every other horror movie, daytime is like base. If you're playing tag, it's base. It's safe.
Yes.
Daytime's safe.
Halloween's a great one. Another great one that still messes with me to this day is The Exorcist.
Oh.
That one's always a little bit twisted.
Never ever seen it. I don't think I ever want to.
Oh, it's not necessarily what's shown on screen. It's just the connotations of it all. That's what really messes with you.
It's not what you see. It's
And
what
then,
you
like,
don't
the
see.
tragedy that surrounds that film. There's a person that falls out of a window and dies, and it's not seen on camera. The guy actually died 2 weeks later from a severe case of the flu he got on set. It's just horrifying.
That's kind of like in Poltergeist. Poltergeist 3, the little girl that played Carol Ann all the way through all 3 Poltergeist films died of pneumonia in the 3rd film.
Oh.
Yeah, and the sister was strangled by her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And
Like in reality?
in real life.
Yeah, in real life.
In real life.
Yeah.
And he gets like 5 years in prison. He
Ellen
strangles his
Burstyn,
girlfriend, and he gets 5 years in prison. That's a shame.
Ellen Burstyn, who played the mother in The Exorcist, had psychological problems after the movie. She had to go to therapy.
Well, I mean, I had to go to therapy after seeing that.
Oh, that movie messed me up too.
Yeah, we actually saw this concept costume out here. We have the West Hollywood Parade, which is considered the biggest Halloween party in the country, and the stuff you see in that parade is just amazing. And one person went as Reagan from The Exorcist on the bed, so their feet were sticking down through the bottom of the bed, and it must have been like a foam core because they carried this bed around Santa Monica Boulevard all night long. They'd put it down, they'd spin around, green stuff would come out of their mouth. It was just the most amazing costume because they went as a bed.
Do y'all remember those cartoons where like someone would run away really fast and you'd see like the dirt imprint of them?
Yeah.
Because the moment I would see that costume, that is all you would ever see of me again. I would dash away.
Yeah, I didn't sleep when I saw that film, and I was an adult when I saw that film. But I did not sleep that night. I didn't. I just played video games. I was like, I'm going to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, that would have to be Paranormal Activity.
Oh, that one was awful. Paranormal Activity for us was one that we had to do the petition to get here. I believe there was some weird thing we had to sign online because we didn't get it straight out. And then when we actually got it, I got an email. It's like, oh, we got to go. And me and my girlfriend went to see it, and she did not sleep at all until I went to work the next morning.
I'm just really mean or something. When Paranormal Activity came out, I really wanted to go see it, and I wanted it to be a whole scary weekend. So we're in San Diego County, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Whaley House or have ever visited the Whaley House.
I've heard of it.
It's like the most haunted house in San Diego or California or something.
Right.
So I was like, you know what, let's get down to San Diego for the day, and we'll go down to like the Whaley House and tour the cemetery, and then we'll go catch Paranormal Activity like afterwards. So like we're down in like a real haunted house touring that, and a real cemetery. Then we can see Paranormal Activity, not realizing that it takes place in San Diego, and then the house like was set up a lot like our house. So I kind of like really warped the kids that night.
I don't watch horror films as a rule because the images just they mess with my head, and I can't sleep, and they just stick in my mind, and I can't get rid of them. Like,
right.
So to this day, like I still see that sheet, being pulled off their feet, and it freaks me out. So yeah, he made me watch that one. But ever since, I won't see him, but he goes with his guy friends, and I have a girls' night.
I love a good haunted house movie. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie freaked me out. First movie I'd seen since the original Halloween in 78 that had that much of an effect on me because it was so realistic.
But Paranormal Activity owes its success and existence to Blair Witch Project. Because nobody had ever seen anything like that. I think it's safe to say, unless there's someone out there that knows of one that came out before it, but Blair Witch was the first like found footage style horror movie. No, it wasn't. What was it?
Cannibal Holocaust. Back in the 70s.
Wow.
The director actually stood trial in Italy because they thought he just made.
They thought it was real. They thought it was a real. I thought Blair Witch Project was real. Everybody did.
Yeah, well, when the actors went out and did their press, they were told to tell everyone that it was real. On some radio show, someone called in and say, "Wow, that was real. Did you guys die?"
Well, you remember in the tent? When they're in the tent and all the hands start slapping the tent.
I was a Boy Scout at the time, and we went camping every month. I could not sleep at all.
Paranormal Activity felt like a honed version of Blair Witch Project in terms of style. The substance of it is different, obviously, but style-wise, they honed the technique of doing that kind of a movie that is posing as reality, so to speak. And they did it right, because I thought it was really frightening.
Oh, it was frightening. It was, and we didn't really see anything frightening until like the middle of the movie. But it was almost like what Ridley Scott did with Alien, a very slow burn. Mm-hmm. But when it got going, hang on to something. All right, any final thoughts on Halloween? Anything that you can't wait to do? Anything that you're going to do?
I am going to watch. It's a horror movie I've never seen, and I'm ashamed to say I haven't seen it. I'm going to watch the original Nosferatu.
Oh, nice.
I have a very good friend of mine. His name's Mark. He moved up to a friend of Seth and I's actually, and he moved up to Pennsylvania and bequeathed his Laserdisc collection to me.
So lucky you. That's an awesome film. Even
I have Nosferatu on Laserdisc. So, yeah.
Oh, good deal. All right, well, everyone, thank you once again for joining us on our Halloween episode of Skywalking Through Neverland. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween.
Halloween. Halloween. Woohoo.
That was
Thank
great.
you so much for having us on.
Anything can happen on Halloween. Your dog could turn into a cat. There may be a toad in your bass guitar, or your sister could turn into a bat.
There's no turning back now.
Back in 1977, when I was in the 3rd grade, my teacher, Mrs. Patterson, made everyone write daily in a journal. And of course, every one of my entries had something to do with Star Wars, so I thought on every show we would read a passage from my journals from 1977 through 1980. Today, we're going to focus on the ones where I wrote about Halloween. The first entry I have is from October 17th, 1977. And as an 8-year-old, I wrote this. Yesterday, me and my friend Jimmy went to the haunted house. The wall opened. There was glowing footprints. Then we went to the museum. There was a big steam room. We saw the polar bears. They had a lake to swim in.
Oh.
So as you can tell, I had a real knack for words back then. But this is something that, yeah, to me, that all made sense. I thought people could fill in the gaps if they could read inside my head.
Well, plus
I kind of have that same problem now.
Well, now, what did you write on October 28th, 1977?
Yesterday, me and Sean and Lisa, that's my sister, and my mother went to the haunted house. My best thing was the Jawas. A guy came out and scared us. I saw a mummy with sunglasses. Near the end was all computers. Tusken Raider was near them. Some lady was cooking spiders.
My best thing. Apparently, I hadn't learned the word favorite.
Or near.
Yes.
I was writing near. So I'm going to read these exactly the way I wrote them.
Of course.
36 years ago. No editing, no nothing. This is how I thought.
And now there's 2 more journal entries we should touch on. Here's October 17th, 1979.
All right, jumping ahead a few years. 2 more weeks is Halloween. Last time, I stayed out for 4 hours. This time, I don't know how long I'm going to stay out. I'm going to be Boba Fett. Last time, I was a stormtrooper. 2 years ago, I was Darth Vader.
And cut.
Wow, if that isn't detail-oriented, I don't know what is.
I know.
That's like my life in a nutshell.
That's pretty funny. Well, here's another one from 1979, October 22nd, 1979.
Yesterday, Lisa and I went to the haunted house at the Carroll Center. That was a center for the blind school back in Newton.
Okay.
There was a long line, but we finally got in. Some parts were scary. The scariest thing was Dracula. The reason why it was scary because the blinking lights made it look like he's not there, but he is. There's one part where the lights are on for 3 seconds, and then it goes out for 3 seconds. It's a skeleton on a swing. Every time he swings, he tries to get someone. If someone walked too close to him, he would probably kick you. After the haunted house, we were going to walk home, but we saw some people, and we got a ride from them.
Well, that was the most detailed one of all.
Yeah, I'm hoping these people were people that we knew. Newton was a pretty safe city, and it wouldn't be beyond me just to get into a stranger's car just to save a walk home.
Oh, well, speaking of Newton, I kind of want to know more about you growing up.
Well, you will, because in every episode, we're going to read more journals from my time at Horace Mann School.
Oh, wow.
All right, it's fun for me, okay? I
Yeah.
haven't read these in 30 years.
Well, speaking of you growing up in Newton, I think you just had such a cool experience being alive when Star Wars came out. So do you have any more stories?
Oh, I do. And my best friend, Jimmy Pruitt, he and I were inseparable. He was the one that really kind of got me into Star Wars. He was the one that told me all about it when I was still playing with the Mego superhero action figures.
Oh.
So I called up Jimmy, and the 3 of us had a nice chat all about our past, Star Wars, and what we're going to be doing for this Halloween.
Hello?
Hey, Jim!
Hey, Jim?
Hey, how you...
Richard, hello, Sarah. I haven't
Hi.
actually talked to you before.
No, that's exciting to meet you.
Yeah. Jim,
Good to
meet
meet
Sarah.
you.
Sarah, meet Jim.
And I think you and Richard are just a perfect match.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Thank you much. And Jim, we haven't spoken since, really face-to-face since, 2005?
That sounds about right.
It's great that we're having you on this episode of Skywalking through Neverland, because now we can refresh each other's memories, since we spent a chunk of our childhood together especially at Halloween time.
Definitely. Can I tell you when I first got into Star Wars?
Oh, sure.
I was 8 years old, and I saw the teaser trailer for Star Wars Episode 4, and I believe that was the winter of 1976.
You saw that original
in that
trailer?
30-second spot, I could tell that with the styling of everything, the robots, the spaceships, the creatures, that here was something that was going to be life-changing.
Aww.
I would see the trailer on TV, and this was in the winter, like 4 months before it was going to come out, and I just would start spazzing out. I'd literally be bouncing off the walls and ceiling, exploding with anticipation, and I couldn't wait to escape into this new universe called Star Wars.
That's so awesome.
And now 30.
Needless to say, Richard and I saw Star Wars that summer, probably over 100 times. So that's cool. Our summer was filled with going to see Star Wars, and then by September there were cards, and then it was Halloween all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to our delight, a Halloween costume company by the name of Ben Cooper had produced 3 Star Wars costumes. You could go as Luke, Vader, or C-3PO, and I went as C-3PO because I thought the C-3PO mask was the best of the 3.
That had a nice shine to it.
Did you go as Vader, Richard?
Yeah, I think our friend Eric Barasano called up and said, "Get down to Osco Drog! Get down to Osco Drog! They have Star Wars At that point, I was already halfway there.
And it was only like $4.99. That was like the price of a pizza or something.
And then there it was. It was a small stack of Star Wars costumes because at that point, most of the stash had already been depleted.
Oh.
Yeah, because word got out. And there were a couple of Vaders, a couple of 3POs, and a big stack of Luke.
Well, why did no one want to be Luke?
Everyone wanted to be Darth Vader or one of the robots.
Okay.
I remember opening up the costume going, wow, I have a Darth Vader Wait a minute, what is this? Because on the chest was not a picture of his chest plate and all the cool buttons, but a picture of himself. It's like, wait a minute, hold on, this is not adding up. I've seen Star Wars at this point about 50 times. I don't recall any scenes where he was wearing a picture of himself on his chest. And then, Jim, open up your costume, and there's 3PO.
He's waving.
Yeah,
He's like, hi!
and
he had these really tacky kind of like slippery gold pants, which I thought was weird.
They were the flame retardant pants.
Oh boy.
Which means if someone threw a match at you, it would just go out. You would not burn up. What do you recall of haunted houses back then?
Not too much.
We went to...
Not too much.
How are you forgetting this? This was like a big part of my childhood.
This is going to be an awesome conversation now. No, just kidding.
Because every year, the Children's Museum would put on haunted houses. Now there's one I'm remembering vividly. It was October of 1977, and there was a big Amityville horror-style house in the middle of a field. There was a huge snake-like line, and then as you're led into the haunted house, you're greeted by 2 ducks. One was in a coffin, and one was mourning the duck in the coffin. Is this ringing a bell?
No.
So anyway, we went into this haunted house, and there were 2 ducks. One was mourning the loss of the other duck. And as an 8-year-old, I'm thinking, what's up with the ducks? And the song Disco Duck was very big at the time, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. But still, I was more confused than scared, because how did this duck die? Who is this duck? Give me some background on this duck.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the subtleties of horror.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they thought that one
through.
If they're trying to
going on there.
tie in the whole Disco Duck thing, or just, hey, this is what we had, accept it, move on. So
I think pretty much that, yeah.
So we're led up into this haunted house, and the next thing I remember is a room that is covered in colored spider webs. And if you look in the far back, you'll see...
Was it neon?
It was neon spider webs, and in the back, you see Spider-Man. Or it's something trying to resemble Spider-Man. Because he had just a blue and red suit, no spider webs, and I think it was supposed to be Spider-Man, but I think the actor in the costume was even embarrassed because of the costume, so he stayed way, way back. I would wave it for him to come up closer, but he kept shaking his head no at me. What kind of a haunted house is this?
So he didn't even try to scare you or anything?
No. Maybe it was someone on an internship. I don't know. And we went further and further into the haunted house. And at the very end, standing in a corner was a Tusken Raider. And he stood there, very still. And I went over and I touched his gaffy stick. And he jumped out at me.
Oh.
Nice.
It didn't...
Classic.
It scared me, but I'm thinking, wow, I feel like Luke Skywalker now. A Tusken Raider is attacking me. And I'm trying to talk to the Tusken Raider. Hi, can you attack me? Remember? I'm pulling on his robe. Remember when you attacked Luke Skywalker? Can you? And I fell on the floor, wanting him to attack me.
Oh. Jim, you don't remember this?
No, I don't remember.
And my mom pulled me up, and my mother's being mortified because now I'm holding up a whole line of people as I'm trying to talk to this Tusken Raider. Next to him were these two little Jawa mannequins. Just in a hole in the wall, like a little tableau of two Jawas. And I'm trying to talk to the Jawas. Hi! Remember R2-D2? Remember when you shot R2-D2? And they didn't talk back because they were just little mannequins. Like 2-foot mannequins.
Oh.
But then I went back a couple of days later and I brought the Topps trading cards. I thought, you know what? I'm going to come bearing gifts. So I gave the Tusken Raider a card of himself, and I tried to give the Jawas their card, but they didn't take it, so I just put it in the sand. So, you know what? Don't say I'm not a giver.
Okay, let me just throw this at you. Going back to our first year, 77, of trick-or-treating with Star Wars costumes. So we'd always start at your house, because I was home-based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, books have.
And then we'd turn down on the Walker Street and go visit Sean Doherty and the Mazzetti house, the other folks in the Star Wars Club, and then we walked further down Walker Street to Watertown Street to Brookside Ave, and we'd stop by your grandparents. Am I getting this all right?
Yes, you are.
And then swing to Eddy Street. That was where I lived, and this was all like 3 or 4 streets. It was idyllic.
New England
trail.
Charm.
Now, in one of my journal posts, I wrote that last year Jim and I went trick or treating. It took us 4 hours.
Really?
Now that may have been for us back then. It could have been 35 minutes.
Yeah, well, but I'm sure you got a lot of candy.
Oh yeah, we got huge. And back then the trick-or-treating bags were made out of plastic, so once it hit 6 pounds, it all just fell out.
Now I can't remember, was my dad there as an escort in 77, or were we just going on our own?
No, these were simpler times when kids could roam the streets by themselves and we were safe.
Yourself.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh.
Newton is and Newton was and still is one of the safest cities in the world. So we felt pretty confident we were probably by ourselves.
Yeah. To go back, before I was Darth Vader, the year before 1976, I went out as Count Chocula.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I still have that mask hanging in my office right now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was Count Chocula, and I believe I was also, I want to say Batman, and I switched off and on throughout the night. Because I couldn't decide what I wanted to be, Batman or Count Chocula.
I think I might have been the $6 Million Man. I'm not sure. I did like the Bionic Man, and I had a couple of Bionic Man toys. I had Oscar Goldman with the suitcase and the briefcase and all that stuff, and that was great.
When it came to new movies and shows, Jim, you were always Johnny on the spot. Your dad took you to a lot of movies, and
he did. You know, I pretty much saw every movie that came out.
Yeah, Jim was our version of Twitter and Facebook back in the 70s. If we wanted to know something, we'd go to Jim. So, now going back to Halloween, in 1979, I was Boba Fett, and I think you were Boba Fett as well, because this was when the trailers for The Empire Strikes Back were coming out. We already knew from the holiday special that Boba Fett was a character, and the action figure was just coming out as a mail-away offer, and then came the costume. And, of course, they got the color scheme all wrong because he's silver. But, so, Jim, do you recall this? We were walking on Washington Street.
2 Boba Fett's walking down Washington Street. We're kind of setting ourselves up to be a target here.
As safe as Newton was, there were a lot of hooligans.
Right.
We're going from house to house getting candy, and we hear these big, heavy footsteps, and they run right by us, and they took my candy. So now, Here's Boba Fett with just handles to a trick-or-treat bag, tears coming down my eyes.
Oh.
And my candy was gone. A whole night's work, gone.
Oh.
Oh, that was so sad. But, Jim, I think you heard them before I did, so you moved your bag in front of yourself. So they didn't get yours. They tried for yours, but they didn't grab it, and they kept moving. I know who it was, and it was Bobby Brown. Not the singer, Bobby Brown, but he was one of the neighborhood bullies, and I knew it was him because I recognized his hair. I know it was you.
You know, my heart really went out to you because that took us a good 2 hours to collect all that candy. I still had a full bag. I looked at you. You didn't have a bag. I'm assuming I shared because I would have been a real...
That was my next
question. I would have been a real asshole if I just did not share any of my candy.
I remember you giving me more candy than I probably would have given anyone else had it been in the same position.
I don't think I would have shared my candy.
Yeah, sharing candy is not something kids do. But, Jim, bless your heart, you shared your stash of candy.
Oh.
Star Wars, those first couple of years, it seemed like every year it always got taken up a notch, like in terms of now all of a sudden you have this great Darth Vader mask, and it just like, it was so great.
Yeah. Halloween 1981. Hey, you were alive then, Sarah.
Oh, I was, yay.
And
welcome to the world.
For some reason, Jim, I did not know what your costume was going to be. You didn't hide it from me. You just didn't tell me. And when you finally showed me, you were an X-Wing fighter.
Oh.
That's right. I was realizing, what was I, 13 or 14 years old now. And so the parents, they give you a weird look when you're too old and you're still going trick-or-treating. So I had realized that this was probably going to be the last year, and I wanted to go out in a bang, and I decided that I was going to dress up as an X-Wing. Now, I was very much into art, and so I could kind of do some sculpting, but I had never this was like a big challenge to me.
Right.
To make this huge costume all of a sudden. So I gathered down in my basement. We had this basement that I had access to. And I think I took some of my mother's storage boxes with the cardboard. And I probably took some of those paper towel, like the tubes.
Right.
That you get with the paper towels. And I constructed an X-Wing. It took me at least 9 hours to do this thing. I was using
9
duct tape.
hours?
I was painting, spending extra time on it. I was sweating doing this X-Wing. So I believe, Rich, I showed up at your house with the X-Wing, and I remember that you were saying something to the effect of you weren't feeling up to going trick-or-treating. And I realized that I was going to have to go trick-or-treating by myself, and that's what ended up happening.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because that morning, my sister Lisa and I were fighting, to play fighting, and she hit me in the stomach really hard.
Oh.
I spent the whole day throwing up. Whole... you could hit me in the stomach at Christmas, my birthday. Do not hit me in the stomach at Halloween. And I just...
I never knew that. I wish you had told me, because I always thought that, oh, wait, Rich thinks that I'm upstaging him here or embarrassing him. I didn't know how to take it, but now hearing the story that you actually were in physical pain.
But I remember seeing your X-Wing costume going, wow, I am deeply jealous. That was such an... I couldn't believe you... If you say you put that together in 9 hours, I'm even more in awe. That would have taken me the better part of the year. I felt horrible that we couldn't go out because I had made a Tusken Raider costume. Ever since that haunted house, I've always had a deep love for Tusken Raiders and Jawas. And since I was a little bit taller than a Jawa, I wanted to be a Tusken Raider.
Now, Jim, is this an X-Wing that you could kind of wear over you?
Yeah, I believe there was some kind of strapping thing. I don't know if you've seen the recent Verizon commercial.
Yes.
Where there's the Jabba the Hutt's there, and there's a kid with an X-Wing costume.
Okay.
And that is not unlike the one that I made.
That's awesome.
When I saw that commercial, that's the first thing I thought of. Hey, Jim had a costume like that. And they had a whole prop team making that costume. With Jim, it was just himself. And it looked just as good. And I recall you after Halloween, you destroyed it.
It was so pathetic when I was trick-or-treating by myself, because I was actually I was with my dad. I think my dad was afraid that I was going to get my ass kicked. And I think he went to his car, he got a hammer.
Oh.
Just to, a little extra protection. And we walked around your neighborhood for about 2 blocks. And one person was really into it, but everybody else was just like, nobody else was trick-or-treating at all. It was just me standing there in an X-Wing costume.
I wish we had iPhones back then, because someone would have gotten a picture of that.
Seriously, I want to see this Instagrammed.
Now, are you doing anything for Halloween this year?
I'm not.
Yeah, Halloween, this is our big day. I love me some Halloween. I love dressing up. And in West Hollywood, they have this the world's biggest Halloween party. And we go every year, and it's just a blast. I think I love Halloween so much because of all the great memories I had from when I was a kid.
This is one of my favorite times of the year. And it's so great to hear that you're still dressing up, and
yeah,
I'm a big fan of you guys.
Oh.
Well, that's very nice. In fact, one year, Sarah and I went trick-or-treating in our neighborhood here.
Yeah.
In fact, when I first moved into my house, and a little girl came to my door dressed as a kitty cat, and I opened the door, and I'd almost forgotten for a second that kids trick-or-treated Halloween. And here she was with her little bag out for candy. Oh my God. I jumped out of my skin. This was my first trick-or-treater in my new house. I think I gave her 20 pounds of candy.
Oh.
I gave her 20 pounds of candy because I was so happy. Any movies that you'd like to watch at Halloween?
The Paul Lynn Halloween special.
Tell us all about it.
And came out in 1976, and it features Margaret Hamilton and her first reprisal of her role as the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
Also guest starring H.R. Pufnstuf, Tim Conway, Florence Henderson, Donnie and Marie, Kiss. Check it out.
My God.
That was an all-star cast back in 1976. All right, well, Jim, thank you for sharing your Halloween memories with me, since we were both there together to share them in the first place.
It was great talking with you.
All right, well, we will catch you in a couple of months when I come out to Newton, and we can do a whole one-on-one episode.
Great. It was great talking to you, and you too, Sarah.
Yes, thanks so much.
All right, Jim, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween. Now scream, tender lumblings everywhere. Life's no fun without a good scare. That's our job, but we're not mean. It's all Halloween. This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween. Now scream.
Well, there's only one thing to talk about on this segment of This Day in Star Wars Disney History.
The biggest thing that happened in Star Wars since the
began.
And that, of course, we are talking about the Disney buyout of Lucasfilm and Star Wars. That happened on October 30th, 2012.
Yeah.
Do you recall that? Do you know where we were?
Oh, yeah. We were in a mall.
Now, most people of the older generation know where they were when Kennedy got shot. Most people of my generation know where they were when Wham broke up. But for us of this generation, of today, we know where we were when Disney bought Star Wars. Something we never thought we would ever hear.
No. So, yeah, we were out shopping in a mall.
We were at the Halloween store in Cerritos, California.
Okay.
And I was on one side of the store. You were on the other side of the store.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I hear, "Look at your tweet! Look at your Twitter! Look at your Twitter! Look at your Twitter!"
In the meantime, I had felt my phone buzz, and, automatically I looked at it, and I saw this tweet. Disney buys Lucasfilm for $4.1 billion. And of course,
I'm thinking,
you're trying to wrap your mind around this.
Wait a minute, this is not April 1st.
No.
What does this really mean? And then she shows me another post that says, Episode 7 is going to be a reality.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is I thought this tweet was maybe a farce. So I went to my Twitter and just looked, and that's like all that was going on Twitter. And then I looked on Facebook, and oh my goodness, yeah.
Word was spreading.
Yes.
We were just so blinded by this news and just in such a numbed state. We walked through this mall telling everybody.
Yeah.
Like we were Paul
oh my
Revere.
God, did you hear the news? Yeah.
We were Paul Revere of the Star Wars world.
Right across from the Halloween store was a collector's store.
And the store Sarah and I would always go into.
Yeah.
And so they knew us. We ran in. There's going to be Star Wars Episode 7!
Yeah.
And they looked at us like, no, there's not.
And we showed them
it
our
ended
tweets.
at 6.
Yeah.
We showed them the Twitter account with the big news.
Yeah.
And the whole store just erupted.
Yeah.
It was a huge, huge, powerful moment. Now, for some of us, like Sarah and I, being huge Disney fans, we thought this is great news. George wants to retire, and it's great that he's not going to retire Star Wars with him. So if one studio, one company, one empire is going to take over Star Wars, it's great that it's Disney. Mm-hmm. Then came the cancellation of the Clone Wars.
Oh.
And the cancellation of Star Wars Detours.
Yeah, hashtag save the Clone Wars.
And Star Wars 1313. And the 3D versions of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, which we saw a little bit of at Celebration 6. We're so excited.
Yeah.
So excited for them. And it was all gone. So I couldn't believe the mouse was taking away Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But then soon enough came news of more standalone films, more sequels, and then Star Wars Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
So they took some away, but they're giving it right back to us.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about this mashup with Disney buying Lucasfilm is that I already had my Jedi Tink costume for a year. So I actually had people posting on my wall like, "Hey, you foresaw the future." It was really funny.
And of course, Sarah told them, "Yeah, I know. George told me last June. Where were you?"
All right, you can't see his face, but he's joking.
So if you have any stories you want to share of where you were, what you were doing, please, we'd love to hear them.
You can send an email to share@skywalkingthrough.neverland.com, or you can go on our website and click on the right-hand button that says "Send us a voicemail," and we can hear your stories live.
And if you also want to share your Halloween costume pictures, please send them on in. That'll be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, we'd love to see some of those costumes. You can send them to our Facebook page. Just search Facebook Skywalking Through Neverland, or you can hit me up on Twitter at SkywalkingPod, P-O-D.
So thank you once again for joining us on our very special episode of Skywalking Through Neverland. Happy Halloween, and remember,
Neverland on Alderaan. Thank you for listening to Skywalking Through Neverland. We would love to hear what you thought of the show. Please send feedback and suggestions. You can email us at share@skywalkingthrough.neverland.com. Please visit us at our website, skywalkingthrough.neverland.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/skywalkingthrough.neverland and on Twitter @skywalkingpod. All material submitted becomes the property of Skywalking Through Neverland and are subject for use on our show. You can help support Skywalking Through Neverland by posting about us on Facebook, Twitter, or just tell another fanboy or girl. We would also really appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes. A link to our iTunes page can be found on skywalkingthrough.neverland.com. Skywalking Through Neverland was created and produced by Richard and Sarah Woloski. Segment producers are David Scale, Richard Woloski, Sarah Woloski, and Mark Oguschewitz. Graphic design and website design by Sarah Woloski. Technical advisor is Peter Heitman. Skywalking Through Neverland is not affiliated with Lucasfilm Limited, Disneyland Resorts, or the Walt Disney Company. All names, sounds, and related items of Star Wars and Disney are registered, trademarked, and copyright Lucasfilm Limited and the Walt Disney Company and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All rights reserved. Skywalking Through Neverland is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Hey Hey Entertainment, copyright 2013, all rights reserved. No part of this show may be repurposed, reproduced, redistributed, or rebroadcasted without the written permission of Hey Hey Entertainment.
Sorry, all that had to be said.
For no mere mortal can resist the evil of the thriller.